Long before the pyramids rose in Egypt, before Rome marched across continents or Greece gave birth to philosophy, there was Mesopotamia. This land, whose name means between the rivers, sat nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is today Iraq. It was here, more than 10,000 years ago, that people first put down roots and built something the world had never seen before: civilization. The rivers flooded every year, leaving behind thick, rich soil that made the land perfect for farming. People came to this place to grow crops and raise animals. They built small huts out of reeds and mud. Soon these huts became villages. The villages grew larger, and people began to stay in one place. With food stored, they could survive droughts and feed more people. This allowed their numbers to grow, and communities began to take shape. As villages became towns, and towns became cities, people started doing more than just farming. Some became potters, others blacksmiths, priests, builders, or traders. Life became more complex. To manage trade and temple offerings, people needed a way to keep track of goods. Around 3200 BCE, they invented writing. They pressed marks into soft clay using a reed stylus. This was called cuneiform, and it became the first known writing system in human history. The first true city was Uruk. It was home to more than 50,000 people. There were wide streets, markets, temples, and a massive stepped tower called a ziggurat. Uruk had kings and priests, soldiers and scribes. Writing was first used for lists and accounts, but soon it was used to record myths, laws, and history. With writing came memory, and with memory, a sense of time and identity. The people who lived in southern Mesopotamia were called Sumerians. They built great cities like Eridu, Lagash, and Nippur. Each city had its own god and its own ruler. These city-states often fought one another, but they also traded and shared culture. The Sumerians invented the wheel, the plow, the sailboat, and created one of the first calendars. They mapped the stars, performed surgery, and wrote hymns to their gods. It was a golden age of discovery and invention. One of the most famous stories to come from this time is the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was a king of Uruk who went on a journey to find the secret of eternal life. Along the way, he fought monsters, challenged the gods, and suffered great loss. In the end, he learned that no man can live forever, but that our deeds can outlast us. The story was written thousands of years ago, but its message still speaks to us today. Around 2330 BCE, a man named Sargon came from the northern city of Akkad. He was not born a king. He started as a servant, but he rose to power through skill and determination. Sargon conquered the Sumerian cities and created the first empire in world history, the Akkadian Empire. He ruled with both force and intelligence. He made Akkadian the official language and placed his own daughter, Enheduanna, high priestess in the city of Ur. She became the first known writer in human history whose name we still know, but empires do not last forever. After Sargon's death, his empire weakened. Climate changes brought drought. Crops failed. People rebelled. From the mountains came invaders known as the Gutians. They destroyed cities and disrupted trade. The Akkadian Empire collapsed, and Mesopotamia entered a time of decline. From this chaos, a new power rose in the city of Babylon. Around 1750 BCE, Babylon was ruled by a king named Hammurabi, who was a clever ruler and a skilled warrior. He united much of southern Mesopotamia and brought peace to the land. But Hammurabi is most famous for his code of laws. These laws were carved into a large stone pillar for all to see. They covered everything: property, trade, marriage, theft, and justice. The most famous law was an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Hammurabi's code helped create a society based on law, not just the will of the king. Centuries later in the north, a new empire began to rise. The Assyrians were fierce warriors who built one of the most powerful and feared empires the world had ever seen. Their armies were large and well organized. They used iron weapons, siege towers, and chariots. They conquered lands from Egypt to Persia. Kings like Tiglath-Pileser or Sennacherib and Ashurbanipal ruled with strength and terror. Cities that resisted were destroyed and their people taken away. But the Assyrians were not just warriors. King Ashurbanipal created the first great library in the city of Nineveh. He collected thousands of clay tablets, preserving knowledge from all across Mesopotamia. Thanks to this library, stories like the Epic of Gilgamesh and ancient medical texts survived for thousands of years. Eventually, the Assyrian Empire grew too large. Its cruelty made it many enemies. In 612 BCE, a group of rebel cities, including Babylon, joined together and destroyed the Assyrian capital of Nineveh. The Assyrian Empire was gone. Once again, Babylon rose to greatness. Under King Nebuchadnezzar II, Babylon became one of the most beautiful cities in the ancient world. He rebuilt the city with strong walls, shining temples, and colorful gates. He is believed to have built the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, for his queen. The city was a center of learning, culture, and power. But Babylon's glory would not last. In 539 BCE, a new conqueror arrived, Cyrus the Great, king of Persia. He entered Babylon peacefully, respected its gods, and allowed exiled people to return to their homelands. Babylon became part of the Persian Empire. Mesopotamia, though no longer the center of the world, remained a key part of a larger empire. Over the next centuries, Mesopotamia passed into the hands of the Greeks, then the Romans, and later the Islamic caliphates. The cities changed, the old gods were forgotten. The languages faded, temples turned to ruins, and the libraries were buried under dust and sand. For almost 2,000 years, the world forgot about Mesopotamia. People could no longer read cuneiform. The great cities were lost to time. But in the 1800s, explorers and archaeologists began to uncover the past. They dug through the sand and found temples, statues, tablets, and cities. Slowly, they learned to read the ancient writing. The voices of Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians came back to life. Today, we know that Mesopotamia gave us so much. The first cities, the first writing, the first laws, the first stories. The people of Mesopotamia were not perfect, but they laid the foundations of the world we live in today. Their legacy lives in our books, our schools, our governments, and our dreams. So when we wonder where it all began, where humans first learned to build, to write, to think, and to govern, we look to the land between the rivers. We look to Mesopotamia, the place where history was born. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe for more cool history.